Who the fuck are you?
Me? Me, I'm nobody.
All right, everybody, I am Kevin from The Real Movie Guys, and you are watching The Real Review, a series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. On today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Nobody. Hutch Mansell is an overlooked dad and husband, always taking life's indignities on the chin and never pushing back. A nobody. When his suburban home is broken into one night, Hutch declines to defend himself or his family, hoping to prevent serious violence. The aftermath of the incident strikes a match to Hutch's long, simmering rage, triggering dormant instincts and propelling him on a brutal path that will surface dark secrets and lethal skills. In a barrage of fists and gunfire, Hutch must save his family from a dangerous adversary and ensure that he will never be underestimated as a nobody again. I already know what a lot of you are thinking, and I can't say I blame you. Based on the trailers for this movie, you can't help but get the feeling that Nobody's essentially a new John Wick movie. I mean, they even want you to know that the John Wick influence is there, proudly touting from the writers of John Wick, and honestly, I'd be lying if it all wasn't there. The seemingly ordinary characters with a secret set of skills that makes them a badass, a traumatic or triggering event unleashing said skills, a shadowy organization hidden within the real world, the amazing shootout pieces. This movie is the John Wick formula, no doubt. However, I do think there is enough to Nobody that it might actually surprise you. Instead of the near perfect John Wick character, in this movie we get Hutch Mansell, played by the breakout star of this film, Bob Odenkirk. Now, many of you may be familiar with Odenkirk from a little show called Breaking Bad, where he played the slimy lawyer Saul Goodman. I have to say, this film is a complete transformation for Odenkirk. While never losing what makes him unique, he can be downright intimidating at times and really is embodying the unsatisfied nature of Hutch. At the same time, he's still on point with the charm and comedy, really flexing his acting skills. The more serious moments are not lost on him either. When he has to convince me that the star of the whole spiral events is because of a kitty cat bracelet or how badly he wants to preserve his normal life, I believe him. Physically, I'm incredibly impressed with the late 50s actor for really putting in the work with the choreography and stunt pieces, since reportedly he did most of it himself. I think in many cases that Odenkirk's character may resonate more with the audience than, say, Keanu as John Wick, because he captures the essence of the everyday mundane and doesn't feel like an unstoppable machine. Everything Odenkirk does in this film feels slightly off, intentionally done so by the actor. You know he is skilled, for sure, but every move is a bit slower or off, resulting in him getting his ass kicked quite a few times in the movie. I think these imperfections are perfect for adding tension, since you're not sure exactly how a fight or action scene will go down, since Huck himself isn't in peak condition anymore. It's weird to say, but he feels like an underdog, even though he still pretty much has everything under control. Another actor I want to touch on just real quick is the impeccable Christopher Lloyd, who plays David Mansell, Huck's father. He too is going through a bit of his own identity crisis, but I'm purposely not going to go too much into detail about his character in the film. Just so you know, if you ever had an action fantasy involving Christopher Lloyd with a shotgun, well, this is your movie. It's a bit cheesy for sure, but it's fun nonetheless. Since this movie is so inspired by the John Wick series, it should come to no surprise that the action and cinematography are all top-notch. Every hit that Odenkirk takes or dishes out in the film is clearly punctuated with a beautiful wide shot from the camera. At no point did I feel like anything was obscured or unclear. The director, Isla Nashuler, most famous for his first-person action film Hardcore Henry, really knows how to showcase action. While this movie is not as adrenaline-fueled as his previous work, Nashuler really captures a perfect pacing for the action that makes sense for the character. Some may say the violence can be a tad over the top, but I think this movie uses it in the right way to make every gory scene hit that much harder. The over-the-top bus brawl is such a standout sequence. You feel that sense of, as gruesome as it sounds, joyous release when Huck embraces his violent side, and the horrific violence that ensues feels incredibly therapeutic, like Huck can finally be himself. The cinematic marriage between him and screenwriter Derek Kolstad of the John Wick franchise brings some memorable set pieces to life. There is a particular stunt towards the end of the movie involving a Dodge Challenger, and I must say, it's so nice to see clever practical action implemented so perfectly. The action isn't the only thing that is completely complemented by the cinematography. I love how this movie is able to use its camera as almost a direct link to Huck's emotions. The entire opening of this film really makes you feel how mundane and boring Huck's life is. The montage of the same events happening day day after day slowly grows faster and faster, making you feel like Huck in the sense that something is begging to get out and burst to the surface. Again, I have to give it to Schuler, the director here. He doesn't have Odenkirk say what he's feeling, but rather showcases it with excellent camera work in this scene and throughout the film. Quick note on the soundtrack here as well. This movie really went in with the song selection, which is something that seems to be becoming a trademark of Schuler, who used Queen's Don't Stop Me Now to perfection in Hardcore Henry. Using I Gotta Be Me by Steve Lawrence really kicks off the emotion to the bus fight, and What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong adds such the right touch of emotion to a decision made at the end of the film. This is something that I always feel the need to point out in films when it's used so effectively and purposely, rather than just as a recognizable background noise. While this film does attempt to tell its own story, unfortunately, the ghosts of John Wick's past start to rear their ugly heads and do impact the film to a degree. I have always felt one of the weakest aspects of the John Wick series were its villains, and nobody's no different here. For the most part, the film has faceless cronies or one-note joke baddies trying to take out Hutch. This film does try to give us a quirky villain in Yulian Guzhentsov, played by Alexei Sabarkov. He is the protector of essentially the Russian mob retirement fund, is a nightclub owner, and obsessed with karaoke. To his credit, Sabarkov does the best with what he has, and I think he's trying to chew the scenery to make this character memorable. Unfortunately, he can't really do much with him since we get so little time, and to some extent, not much reason to care. While the script for the most part is tight, the film runs a cool 90 minutes. I couldn't help but feel like the movie's plot was essentially nothing but unlikely reactionary happenstance. Listen, John Wick has this problem too, but I would argue it doesn't feel as forced as Nobody's plot in that way. In John Wick, action A results in direct consequence B, with everything following directly connected. In Nobody, reaction A results in extremely unlikely consequence B that is further extenuated by an unlikely association with consequence C. I can understand that with Nobody, they were trying to say that when you leave that type of life, you can never really escape it. Just like John Wick, violent people will always have a violent life, but connecting the dots was too much of a stretch for me at times. I've so far praised the movie for not making Hutch John Wick, but towards the end of the film, he is starting to feel a little bit too perfect. Sure, the argument can be made that he's just getting back in the saddle and his reflexes are building back up, but I just feel like they said screw it at the end so they could have a big shootout finale unhindered. I can admire they went with the Home Alone scenario as the last action set piece of the film, having Huck use his environment to get the upper hand, but the direction they were going in with this invincible mode status, it sent me a conflicting message on why did he need that edge? And that is one of the larger issues of this movie. It feels like it's afraid to find its own identity outside of the previously established John Wick formula. When this film dips its toe outside of those waters, it feels so much more rewarding and memorable. The style is sleek and the action is on point, fused effortlessly with the comedy. I do think there is something special here. Bob Odenkirk does what I love to see in actors. They take a riskier role outside their comfort zone. I just wish this movie would have taken more risks with its plot instead of relying on its lead to carry the film, which leads me to my final score. I'm going to give Nobody a B-.
Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet, motherfucker!
When it's all said and done, I had a really good time with Nobody. Bob Odenkirk alone is worth the price of admission for just how much he made this film his. Yes, the story does hit familiar beats, but I think it's something that can be overlooked for just how commendable the direction is. Taking a concept we have seen before and adding just enough flavor to the mix, making Nobody truly feel like a somebody. If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.